Why knowledge matters.
Well, thank you. Yes, and you're absolutely correct. The intent of how depth of knowledge has been interpreted and expressed to everybody has been completely inaccurate and inconsistent with what Norman Webb originally intended depth of knowledge to be. First of all, it was never meant to be a method and model for teaching and learning. Norman Webb created it as a criterion for alignment studies. What you would do is you would take your standards and you would categorize the cognitive demand or the context in which students must understand and use their learning using 1 to 4 scores. So the 1 to 4 DOK levels are not actually a taxonomy, they're a rating scale. So you would take your standard and code it a DOK1, DOK2, DOK3, or DOK4. Then you would look at your curricular activity or assessment item that addresses and assesses the standard. And then you would see how closely those items address and assess the standard. So that was the original intent and purpose of depth of knowledge. Dr. Karen Hess expanded it to make it a measure of cognitive rigor. What she did was she superimposed Bloom's revised taxonomy, which categorizes the complexity of thinking students must demonstrate with the DOK levels to mark and measure the cognitive rigor of academic standards, curricular activities, assessment items, and questions. What I did with it was I was responsive to the community, to the education community, saying that we want this to be a method and model for teaching and learning. So, how I spent the pandemic when all my professional development was torpedoed was that I did some extensive research into how could I turn depth of knowledge at DOK levels into a method and model for deeper teaching and learning. So, I conducted extensive research on response to intervention, RTI. I conducted extensive research on multi-tier system support, MTSS, the PLC process, the 4 questions, the 4 critical questions. And what I did with it is that I turned DOK into a method and model for deeper teaching and learning. So it's kind of interesting because you have 3 people who took this model that was originally created by Norman Webb and expanded and extended it or innovated it to be what it is today. So if you are looking to do alignment studies with your standards and your assessments, you would look to Norman Webb's work. If you would look to measure the cognitive rigor of your standards, your activities, your assessment, your questions, you would look to Dr. Karen Hess's work. If you were looking to establish a method and model for teaching and learning, that's how you would look for my work. Because what I do is that I say is that teaching and learning for depth of knowledge starts with the standard, but tiers to where the students are so they can rise to reach and go beyond that DOK level or DOK bar set by the standard.
That's why knowledge matters. Make your life a masterpiece. Visit now programs.d-ykm.com.